So, and I know you went to Arts Magnet.
I did.
I went to Arts Magnet too.
Cool.
Yeah,
Your
I was
family.
gonna be an actor, and then I realized that I stank, and I went to Skyline and got into fashion and made dresses for years. Actually, making a couple of prom dresses now. So, been here for a while. Anyway, enough about me. So, tell us a little bit about your journey and your philosophy of music.
Okay. Well, I've been playing cello for 22 years. But my journey started off as a percussionist. I started when I was like 5 or 6. So being on stage is literally all I know. I went to a school in South Dallas called Julius C. Frazier. My first, so you're familiar. Back then, that's where the instructors really cared about the artistic direction of students.
That's because kids are crazy now. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, you're not wrong. I'm a teacher as well, so I can attest to that. But I think that's all environmental, but we'll get to that
Okay,
later.
all right.
Started off as a percussionist and a pianist. And my mom, from the beginning, she just kind of stopped trying to steer me and just let me do my own thing. And once I got to Sidney Lanier, the other elementary school that I went to, I was taking the long way back to class. And I walked by the orchestra room and I saw some of my friends in there. At the time it sounded cool, but playing it back in my mind, it probably sounded horrible. But I wanted to know what they were doing because I hadn't yet seen those instruments before. And representation is everything. I hadn't seen a brown face playing those instruments before. So I switched clusters from, at the time I was doing choir and dance. So I went on to play, I went to orchestra. I started off on violin. It came pretty easy to me because I already knew how to read treble and bass clef, being that I'd already played piano. But it was really uncomfortable and I hated how it sounded under my ear. Just the chin rest was just too much for me, so he moved me up to viola. I liked the sound better, but again, it was still uncomfortable. My fingers were very long. But he gave me a cello and it just it stuck with me. And the teacher that was there at the time, he was the substitute teacher in orchestra for the time being because our teacher was on sabbatical. He taught at Griner and he asked me, he's like, we really don't have any cellists at the school. I know you want to go for violin, but could you please play cello? And I said, okay, whatever. That's how my journey started. I said, okay, whatever. But I got there and I fell in love. And as soon as I got to the school, he asked me, what do you want to do when you grow up? I said, I want to be a professional. I didn't know how to say it at the time, but I said, I want to be a professional celloist. And he laughed. But I was serious. I wasn't kidding. Then I ended up going to Arts Magnet after that. Now, starting cello at 12 in the classical world is considered late. Many people start when they're 4 or 5 years old, so I was a little bit of a late bloomer. So when I got into the Young Strings program, my teacher, she kind of had me on a fast track. So my last year of high school, I ended up going to Interlochen Arts Academy in Michigan, which is, to try to put it as succinctly as I can, it's like Arts Magnet but on crack. Like it's like a college level of Arts Magnet, but I had classmates from South Africa, Macedonia, Russia, all over the place. And being that my mom just let me be who I was from an early age, and what comes with the territory is that if you're really serious about playing classical music, you go to music camps. That one time at band camp, that's true. Like that's a thing. So you're constantly in these music camps. So I was always surrounded by people that either didn't speak English or spoke very little English, but we spoke one language, and that's
Music.
Yes, and it blew my mind from an early age. I went to the camp first at Interlochen before I went to the school, and when I came back, my mom said I was not only a different musician, but I was a different
She
person.
could tell.
Yeah, I was a different person. So she told me she wouldn't be able to forgive herself if she let me stay here. So I went there, and easily still one of the most incredible experiences of my life. And the teacher there, he was on sabbatical too. We had a different teacher that year, but my teacher that I first had here in Dallas, she was in the symphony, but she also strongly encouraged us to play jazz. Strongly encouraged us to play jazz. She had regretted that she didn't take advantage of that opportunity. She kind of got stuck in the symphony classical world, which, I mean, if I'm honest, it's not very friendly to black and brown skinned folks. And it's not just black and brown skinned folks. It's really everyone that's under the baton. That they can be really mean and crass and demeaning, and I didn't want to be in that kind of a box. The music is incredible. I love orchestral music, but it kept me too closed in. So when I went to college in Cleveland, I was supposed to go to CIM, Cleveland Institute, but Baldwin Wallace ended up giving me more money, and my mom was like, you need to go where the money is. So that's where I ended up going. But coincidentally, the teacher there, she was a teaching apprentice to like one of the most world famed, one of my favorite cellists of all time, Jano Starker. So it was pretty much like I was taking lessons from him. And funny that I got accepted to Indiana University, which is where he was teaching at the time, but they gave me $0. So it was like I was pretty much taking lessons from him. However, when I got to that school, it kind of burst my musical brain into several pieces. I remember oh God, I'll never forget this. My sophomore year in college, some of my jazz friends, they were like, well, this is so embarrassing but funny at the same time. They were like, well, what kind of jazz do you listen to? I was familiar with the name Miles Davis because my first job that I had when I was 16, the owner of the restaurant gave me the Kind of Blue CD. That was my first jazz CD I ever got. And I wore it out until it started skipping.
That is a good CD.
It's one of the, it was Kind of Blue and Nefertiti.
Okay.
So I was familiar with Miles Davis, and I was like, I like Miles Davis and Kenny G, right? That's it. That's that's it, right? And they were like, no, come this way. So that weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they pretty much locked me into a practice room and bombarded me with all kinds of jazz. Grant Green, Cole Porter, Charles Mingus, Kurt Rosenwinkel, like all this stuff that just completely blew my mind. Then when I started studying Miles Davis, he was really fascinated with sonata form, which is a musical form of classical music, and his favorite composer was Prokofiev, who's actually my favorite composer too. And little did I know that a lot of jazz cats, they just...
Prokofiev?
Yes.
I know I just pronounced it wrong.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
That's correct.
It has an F on it?
Yes, an F or a V, depending on...
Oh, okay.
Just like Rachmaninoff is spelled two different ways, two Fs or a V. But little did I know that a lot of jazz composers and musicians took from classical musicians. Like, I mean, Gershwin is a very good example. He's both. He's a classical composer, but he has the jazz language. So I started playing, I kind of dabbled in bass when I was a little younger. The bass player at the church I grew up at, when he got tired at the end of service, he just told me to come up there and play. And he was like, oh, you're fine, you play cello, it's the same dexterity. But this guy had a 7-string bass, and I was like,
So how many strings are on a cello? 5?
4.
Four?
I can only function with 4. That's
Violin?
4.
Violin 5? 4? 4 and then 7. That's it?
So bass can go, well, you have 4, 5, 6, 7 string basses, but I've seen some that were 9 and 10 strings. There's no way. Just, if you put that in front of me, I will walk away. There's no way I would do that. But yeah, he would bring me up there and have me play bass for him while he was resting at the end of service. So they got me interested in it, and I'm also a composer. I went to school for composition as well. And the way that I approach writing music from the bottom up, I start with the bass and I fill it up on the top. Because you can't really have a good song without a good bass line, you know?
So you're gonna play some original stuff for us today?
I am.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
We're gonna go ahead and move to our amuse-bouche. So, Alexa, if you wanna play, or do you wanna play now, or what do you wanna do?
I would
You
love
ready
to.
now?
Sorry, I don't